If everyone could please take a seat at this time, we'll be starting momentarily. Once again, if everyone could please take a seat, we'll be starting momentarily. Thank you.
Anytime you need to pass this to me, I'm on. I got my jokes ready. I got my intro ready. That'd be pretty funny.
It's just very.
You should do it. One day you'll do it. You'll be, ladies and gentlemen, I have laryngitis.
Exactly. One day that probably will happen.
One day you and I could pull something like that.
Maybe we'll tag team.
I'll take it next. No, I'll take it next year. I want to have some fun.
Go for it.
See, I wish one day we'd let me introduce some new teachers because then I have all the stories behind them, you know. But that's his thing.
That's a good.
I know.
That's a good one. Very good call. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. Now that's a good idea.
One day. We'll see when. One day it'll happen.
All right, I think he's ready for the good morning.
All right.
That's it. Hey, don't worry.
You got the.
Oh, wait. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, if we could please come forward, take a seat so we could begin our convocation. One more time, good morning. Good morning. And just like that, convocation, and guys, you will wake up 5 minutes later and it will be June. Welcome to the Westbury School District 2019-2020 convocation, and welcome back. Give yourselves a round of applause, please, everybody. Those that may not know, my name is David Zimbler, and I have the privilege of calling myself the Westbury High School principal. And thank you so much. And Master of Ceremonies for today. At this time, I would like to introduce our day's guest, our Board of Education President, Mr. Robert Triano Jr. Our Board of Education Vice President, Floyd T. Ewing III. Trustees, Dr. Pless Dickerson. Miss Michelle Wilson. Our Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Udis Budai. Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, Dr. Roger Bloom. Our Interim Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operation, Mr. Mark Sisler. Our WAS President and Assistant Principal at Westbury High School, Mr. Reginald Warren. And our WTA President, Miss Christine Corbett. I hope everyone had a great summer, a well-deserved summer. It truly takes a village, as we say each and every day. We should think the same way. Success at the high school is all due to our pre-K and K, our elementary, our middle school, and high school working together. Our success is so crucial to our community and our children, and I want to personally applaud each and every one of you for the effort you put in each and every day into a great 2019-2020 school year. At this time, if I could ask everyone to please rise for the presentation of colors from our NJROTC Color Guard. And please remain standing until they leave the stage. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A round of applause for our color guard, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. And I would like to introduce one of the hardest working superintendents I know in Long Island, Mr. Udis S. Budai.
Good morning. I know we had some coffee out there and some orange juice and some water, so I want to say it again. Good morning. Excellent. So this is like the first day of school. I wake up. I try to make sure that I have everything on point the night before, put on my clothes, make sure that my shirt is ironed, have the right tie on, golden green. And I just wake up just with energy that I cannot imagine having any other day. But during the summer, I got to tell you, I missed you all. I couldn't wait for this day to come faster. And I'm sure that our students are going to do the same once we come on the 2nd and 3rd. So I would like to say welcome to our distinguished members of the Board of Education, our host, Mr. Zimbler, and the high school for always giving us the space to make sure that we have air conditioning during our convocation. So let's give them a round of applause, high school people. I want to make sure that we recognize our leadership and everyone here on this first day, because this year is a very special day. To get this day to where we are today, it took a great leadership and teamwork, because I will tell you that the extraordinary work that's happening in our schools, our building of construction to make sure our children have the space necessary to learn, is just remarkable. Every day, I come to work, and this is what I look like. I drive my car to the back, and I greet all the young men and women that are putting their hands on every stick built, everything that's happening in our schools. And I will tell you that they are working diligently every single day, and they understand why they're doing this. It's not about a job. It's not about putting that brick. They understand that it's about the children. They tell me this when I greet them. They want to take pictures. They want our students to really strive. And I will tell you that this hard hat, it says elite on it because Elite Construction is our construction manager, but I will tell you that these people are elite. They are magnificent, and I would love that they would be right in here so we can tell them how much we care about them because of the work they're doing and how fast they are doing it. So this is my hard hat when I go out there, but I'll take it off now because I think I have my hard hat right here. You all are my hard hat, and I'm hoping that I serve you as your hard hat as well. I will never let anything happen to you. I am here to protect, serve you as well as our children and our community, our families. So with that, Dragon Pride. Are we Dragon Pride in here? Oh. That didn't sound too well, but that's okay. Let's see what happens later. I would like to thank our partners in crime, our nurses. If you can please stand, our nurses. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. The ladies that serve us and the men that serve us and serve our children every morning when they come for breakfast, lunch, and sometimes even dinner, our nutrition crew, could you please stand up? And most of them are working right now as we speak. Our clerical staff, the people that really keep us going on a daily basis, please stand up, please stand. Sometimes I'm like a rabbit. I really am fast, and they have to calm me down sometimes. Thank you, Randy, for always keeping me calm and making sure that I stay focused. Our teacher assistants, our teacher aides, and our monitors that come and support our students on a daily basis, please rise from your seat so we can really acknowledge you. Thank you. And these individuals that I'm going to say we should acknowledge next, they're always standing by the door. And I don't know why, but I think they have to keep us safe all the time. And so to our security staff who's all standing over there, let's acknowledge them. And leading that charge is Mr. Jeff Smith and Mr. John Robinson, who do an amazing job for us as well. I want to thank Mr. Jeff Smith and Mr. Robinson for making sure they keep us on track. We have our PTA council here as well, our parents who are here. Please rise. Ms. Rosenau always there to protect us. Our WAS unit, our Westbury Association of Administrators and Supervisors, are all sitting, always leading us, not just from the front, but always from behind as well. Please stand so we can recognize our leadership in the district. And last but not least, I would like to really recognize the special force that we have here, our partners in crime, making sure that every day teaching and learning is happening. Our students are speaking to the most wonderful people, engaging them in ways that are unimaginable. Our WTA staff here, please rise. All of our teachers, psychologists, school counselors. That means everyone, please stand up so we can recognize you. And now I would like to mention there are a number of us that are new to the district, but some of us are not new to us as well. So as I call your name, please rise. Ms. Kyla Bowler. Please stay standing. Jamal Ward, school psychologist. Eddie Correa, social studies. Andy Sanchez, science. Michael Fodera, science. Christina Morel, art. Sarah St. John, art. Elizabeth Marte Reyes, school psychologist. Gabriela Cuellar, elementary education. Tiffany Milan White, mathematics. Charles Castillo, math. Jasmine Castillo Hoffman, Spanish teacher. Brianna Shu. Brianna Shu, reading. Angela Imoff, bilingual reading teacher. Maxine Perlman, elementary education. Ellen Maluzewski, library media specialist. Michelle Greehey, school psychologist. Brian McGray, school counselor. Alina Flores, bilingual elementary, Park Avenue. Leigh Zabinski, elementary education. Joe Isa, one of our special education teachers. And Ms. Vicky Sylvain, our family and community liaison. So I would like us to recognize these individuals because they are among the best people that we found to really serve our children. You were selected and chosen to be here with us today and to be with us for a long time, to make sure that our children see a reflection of what they could be, what they will like to be, So we want to thank you for joining the Westbury family. But I would also like to say that among you, there are at least two that I am familiar with that are also alumni. So, Mr. Andy Sanchez actually went to school at Dryden and Park Avenue School. Raise your hand, Mr. Andy Sanchez. Gabriela Cuellar is a class of 2011. Raise your hand. And I'll say this, we also have a son of an alumni who has come back to serve in his mother's place, Mr. Brian McCrae. I said Miss Vicky Sylvain. I said Eddie Carrera. Kyle Bolar, he was the first number one. I did. All right. So what I would like to do now is I would like you to sit for a second because it is a special moment. We happen to have lost one of our alumni, a person that has dedicated his life to ensuring that our children, the children of Westbury, but almost every child in Westbury really succeeded, had a mentor amongst us, and that is Mr. Paul Ebron. And in his recognition, we would like to make sure that this convocation is dedicated to Mr. Paul Ebron. Mr. Paul Ebron Mr. Paul Ebron, I recall when I first got here to Westbury, he was one of the first people that greeted me, made sure that I understood what was the framework, the groundwork, and everything that we did here for our children. He was an amazing person. His life was really short, but within the time that he had on this earth, he had a significant impact on us all and our children. We are truly going to miss Mr. Ebron, and on his behalf, I want to make sure that the alumni that are here today, including some of our alumni that are Board of Education members, and I'll include Dr. Dickerson there as well, that we all serve our children in the way that we would serve our own. And so every day that we come to work with the passion, the grit, the power to really succeed and make sure that we push that on our children. Because this is our space. And our space is magic. And this space depends on us to make sure that we can impact our children. And I will say that with the hard work, the smiles and love, our students come to school and they really see dynamic people, people that really care about them. Just yesterday, they asked me about security and safety in schools, and they asked me about metal detectors. And I said, our metal detectors are our staff. They know when a child may not seem correct. They know when to speak to our children. They understand what it is when our child is not doing well. And they also see the happiness in children as well. From the time they get on the bus to the time they walk through our doors, we do not need metal detectors. We need schools. So the pipeline to prison is something that we don't do here. It doesn't start in our schools. Our schools are about teaching and learning, and you make that work. So we will go from a data-driven instruction to a child-driven instruction. Because every data point that we see, we must put a face, we must put a pulse, a heart to it. Otherwise, those numbers mean nothing. And we will not be judged by one number that comes out of some report. We're going to be judged by the dedication, the commitment that we have here, the commitment that you all come every single day to work to make sure that our students strive and that they see a mirror, that they see themselves in what's going to happen for their future. And so with that, I would like to say that we're going to honor those of you that saw the T-shirts today. Our theme this year is honoring tradition and embracing innovation, because there's always a great tradition to follow. But with one little twist, it becomes innovative. So we want to make sure that we honor our past, make sure that our past exists and lives on, but at the same time that we embrace the voices of our children, because they're living in a different world today, in a completely different world than what we were brought up with. However, we want to make sure that technology is used for the right reasons, that we are one step ahead of our children, because if we're not, we're going to be falling behind. Technology is key to communication, but there is no better communication than seeing somebody's face, understanding what they look like, because that's the only way you can feel what they feel. And so just the other day, I was watching the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, I believe it is, with Will Smith and his son. And I will tell you that, wow. Our children need us. Sorry. So protect their dreams, please. Because somebody protected mine. That's why I'm standing here today. So to the pursuit of happiness for our children, I want to thank you all. We're going to have a fantastic year. This is going to be an amazing year like no other. We're going to come every single day prepared for our children. We're going to smile for them when they walk through our classrooms every single day. Congratulations. Have a blessed year. Let's move forward. Thank you. Make sure.
If anyone noticed, the hallways are real clean, real clean. And at this point in time, I have to give a tremendous shout out to not only our custodial staff at the high school, but our entire custodial staff at the district, because it looks like it does today because of our custodial staff tremendous work. Thank you to our Westbury School District custodial staff. Also like to recognize one of our new WASP members, Miss Manushka Daniel, Assistant Principal, Howells Lane School. Congratulations. And it's with pride and joy I announce your name, because I hired you. I did good. I did real good. And two new nurses to our district, Miss Goodness and Miss Farajola. Welcome. Please stand for a moment. Welcome to our district. Two new school nurses. Welcome.
I completely forgot something that I wanted to leave for last, but I want to make sure that we announce them. So there are certain people in this room that they need to leave. They told me, we're going to come for about an hour, Mr. Buddha, and then we have to go because we got to get things done. And to our facility staff, I wanted to leave them for last. But they are the most amazing crew that you can possibly imagine, particularly at a precise time like today. Please stand, our facilities crew, Mr. Almonte and everyone else that's here. Please, that is not what we need. We need to give them a bigger round of applause.
Thank you for all you do. At this time, it's with a pleasure I ask to come to the podium our Board of Education President, Mr. Robert Triano, Jr.
Good morning. I want to thank Mr. Budai for delivering this speech I was about to give to all of you. I'm not kidding, down to every single point he made. But how many of you were here last year? Then you will recall that at the end of my speech last year, you gave me a spontaneous standing ovation. And I want you to know, I am very competitive with myself. So I have been fretting all night. What can I say to earn another standing ovation? But I'm not proud. I'm competitive. So I'm going to say it right up front. Let's get it over with right now, okay? Let me not have to sweat it through the speech. Give me a standing ovation right now. Thank you. Stop. No, stop. Thank you. That was really so kind of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, there's a group up there that I know could not have been here last year. Because you may recall that the newly minted board president last year asked everybody that was sitting in the back to come up to the front. And those that didn't got embarrassed. And those that didn't get tenure this year either, by the way. So before it's over, I went through and asked every one of them to come to the front. So they're on their own. I'm going to give you one more chance. No, I'm just going to call you out. You didn't do what the board president said. And I'm going to get you. So, like I said, Mr. Booth, I just really did give the speech I was intending to give, but let me put my own little color on it. Mr. Booth, I said that the theme this year is to honor tradition and embrace innovation. I'm going to change it a little bit to say we see you and we thank you. Sometimes those of you who are, last year when I spoke to this group, I really focused on the teachers. And that was a shame because really there's such a huge supporting cast of staff that support our whole initiative, and we all do this together. No one group supersedes any other, and it's important that we recognize, even if Mr. Buddha has done that already, we can do it a second time. And perhaps the custodial staff feels the most invisible. Yet I want you to know the board sees you, and we thank you. We see you shoveling snow from our sidewalks and from the driveways. We see that. And it's so important to our community that you do that and have our schools ready to be opened. We have far too many parents who depend on our schools opening so that they can go to get to their jobs and provide for their families. And every snowfall, every time there's a challenge, you rise to the task and make sure that our schools are ready to be open. If our schools don't open, it's because the villages, the towns, the counties have failed to do their job and that they failed to clean the roads. We see you and we thank you. The secretarial staff. Now, with all due respects to the principals, we, the board, we know who really runs the schools. So we thank you for that. You, in many ways, are the face of the district. You're the people that parents see, that visitors see when they come into the building. And that you're the people that give them a good impression about Westbury. And you also give parents a good impression. I am the grandfather of a young man who goes to school in our district. And I see all the mail that comes to our home, and I check it with a real careful eye. And I make sure there are no typos. So I want to give you, all the secretaries, a grade of 100% on your typing. Thank you so much. And the business office, clerical staff, we haven't forgotten you either. We know that we are stretching you thin. We're asking you to do more and more with less and less, and I want to acknowledge you as well. Thank you so much for all you do. The security team, are you still here? You know, in my job, I get to go to schools all throughout Nassau County teaching young people how to vote, and we bring in a voting machine, and they get to vote on the key subjects of the day. But I get to also observe how the tone of the school districts as we walk in. And in some schools, you can see security is just very lax, and almost anybody can come into the building. There are other schools, though, with uniformed security guards who have metal detectors, and I don't really appreciate that either. But I think our security staff has managed to create kind of a Goldilocks, where it's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just right. You can come into our buildings and feel very comfortable that there is a presence there, but you don't feel like there's an armed guard behind you. And I appreciate the work that you do to work with our students, to find out what's going on, what's affecting them. And I understand that because of the connection that they have with you, they share things with you that they may not share with people who had a scarier appearance. So I thank you for what you do to make sure that our schools are a learning environment where people feel safe, but don't feel like they have to be kowtowed and can't move around. Thank you so much for the security unit. We all do this together. I also want to thank our IT department. I am so proud of IT. That's a really small group. How many of you are here from the IT department? Rocco? They're working IT, of course. But for those of you who can't come to a school board meeting, you get to watch it on your phone or your computer. Just go to westburyschools.org, and we have got the best streaming of our board meetings of any municipality throughout Long Island. And I've been a town councilman, I've been a county legislator, I've seen what everybody else does, and we have the best. We have the best email system. Some of you may have seen that Rockville Center had to pay $100,000 this week because their IT group could not keep their files safe. A hacker got in there, encrypted them, and locked them up. Rockville Center is out $100,000. Because of the professionalism and the knowledge of our IT staff, we don't face that. Thank you to IT. Someone will please share that with them, okay, when you go back to your buildings. Thank you. The cafeteria workers, thank you for what you do. And we know this year you have to work with a new nutrition company. We are hoping that they do a great job, but we're relying on you to make sure that they make a proper transition and that we continue to give our kids a good nutritional lunch and breakfast so that they are ready for our teachers and to educate them and they can perform well. Thank you again to the nutrition workers. And the nurses, I haven't forgotten you. I recognize that Mr. Boudet has already honored you, but I want to say that what you do is also important to the overall education of our kids. And it's important that you continue to keep them in good health and respond to the daily emergencies. Thank you for what you do. Rosa, I haven't forgotten your group. But before we get to them, this summer I had I've been on the school board at various times, now totaling over 15 years, and I've never learned so much about what school psychologists, social workers, and guidance counselors do as I did this summer. We had a meeting with the board and the PPS staff, and it was an enlightenment as to what they have to do, the stresses that they are under, the pressures they're under, and what a great job they do. And I want to acknowledge them, but what was even more meaningful is that they were able to share with us all the trials and tribulations that so many of our students go through. That when you're a board member, sometimes you don't recognize it, and sometimes you just don't realize it. And the psychologists and all the support staff, I think the term nowadays is the socio-emotional feel in the school district is really important in a district like this, preparing the students to be educated. Some of the stories we heard about children who have gone through 3,000-mile treks to get here, and some of the horrors that they've seen, it just really will bring a tear to your eyes. And so the board was so moved by what it heard in that lesson that we got, that this year, midsummer, we decided to hire 3 additional school psychologists. And I want you to know that this board is committed to doing more with the proper funding. Maybe I won't tell you the story about Martha's Vineyard, but I'll skip now to Rosa Buffalino and her TAs. You are the unsung heroes of the classroom. I know my daughter Keely, who's also a graduate of the Westbury schools, served for many years in another school district as a teacher's assistant. And I understand the bonding that TAs have with the students and the support that they give to the teachers and the administrators. And we celebrate our teachers all the time. And in fact, this year, our budget presentation celebrated all the accomplishments of our teaching staff. For example, last year, we had an increase in ELA scores of 10% in grades 3 to 8. Now, I know we want to poo-poo those test scores and the 3s and the 4s, but when they're good, we want to celebrate it. 10% last year, which was double the Nassau County average. Thank you for that. Thank you to the teachers. But, teachers, I'm going to ask you to stand again for the TAs because you know what a great support our teacher assistants provide to you. Please stand for all of our TAs. Mr. Budai, teachers, you know we love you. And I've already spoken a little bit about some of the successes we had last year, but we also had a 5% year-to-year increase in math scores. We had a 21% increase in the number of students scoring 3 or better on AP exams. 57% of our students passed the algebra regents, double the New York State passing rate of only 30%. 80% passed the living environment regents in 8th grade, a test geared for 10th graders, and 100% passed the physics regents. Thank you. But we've had great successes this year, but I want to make one huge apology. Mr. Budai spoke about the construction that's taking place outside, and we are really happy that our community supported us. I think our community has supported 5 or 6 straight budgets in addition to a referendum for $55+ million to add to our schools. And we are very excited about that work. But we really anticipated that our school, that the high school, would be completed by this date, that we'd be opening up new classrooms for our 9th graders. We didn't make it, and I'm not proud of that. So I want to apologize to all of the high school teachers here. I want to face that head on. We failed to deliver what we promised to do. And we understand, all of us on the board and the administration understand that that's going to put additional stresses on you, bringing more students into this building. And it puts stresses on them. But I am confident in your capabilities. This past year, we were awarded by the state of New York recognition for being one of the top 12 schools in graduating children of color throughout New York State. Think about that, 12 schools. And you do that under trying conditions. There's always a trying condition in Westbury. We're underfunded. We know that. But we know you will do what we always do in Westbury. We come together, we pull our resources, and we make it happen. And most of all, we remember why we do what we do. And I've got 5 good reasons for persevering and continuing under very trying circumstances. The reasons are Layla Antoine, Ania Young, Antonio Arevalo, Cesar Perez, Jonathan Ellis. And those are 5 students that are coming to your school this year. It's because of them and the 350 of their friends in 9th grade that need you, that depend on you to provide them with a safe, nurturing environment in which they can learn and join the crop of 12th graders last year who passed this and graduated and succeeded because of you and your pride and what you want to do for these 5 students and their cohorts. Thank you very much. Have a great year, and I look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you.
I'd like to acknowledge Raheem, our artist for the day, who's capturing this morning. Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to please ask to come to the podium, Mr. Reginald Warren, our WASP president.
Before Reggie gets to speak, who I love dearly, Reggie taught my kids, he got them through, and still somehow I managed to forget to mention the administrators.
I was just about to light him up for it, but go ahead, Robert.
So let me mention our administrators and all the successes that our teachers have and the rest of our staff have clearly couldn't happen without the educational leadership that you provide to our school system. So let me give diminished remarks, but please blame it on my head and not my heart. You're deeply in here, okay? But while I'm here, let me also welcome to the ranks of administrators Manushka Daniels, and I mention Manushka as often as I can because when she got tenure back in June, I so destroyed her name that I have to make up for it. I called her Daniela Manushka or something like that. I don't know. So Manushka, good luck to you. We welcome you to Powell's Lane. I feel sorry for you because, you know, the board president's grandson goes to Powell's Lane, and we wish you well. I also want to acknowledge Juanita Sherwood, who's taking on a new role. I want to thank you for that. And I know how much I know how much you enjoyed your position at Dryden Street. But I want you to know that the board looked at your resume and your background and your experience, and you were doing some important work at Central Registration. But we wanted to see you apply those skills in an environment where you could really apply your educational instructional skills. And I'm happy you took that assignment, and we wish you good luck as well. And so is that okay, Reggie?
Keep going. You
And did I tell you how much I love Reggie? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. All right, I'm going to tell you how much I love Robert. I can rip half of this up. Every time I have to follow you, I'm crossing stuff out. He's hitting my topics. But, you know, you can look at that through two lenses. That could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. For me, it's a good thing. It shows that we're in sync. We share the same ideas. We're working in the same district, and we should be moving in the correct direction. So, you know, I'm that eternal optimist. The glass is not half empty. It's half full, and the other possibilities that it offers. So thank you again, Robert. I remember last year following you. So I'll try to piece through and rip mine apart and catch up. So here we go. Good morning to all. Welcome back to the 2019-20 school year, and I'll try not to be as long. I hope you had a summer of relaxation, reflection, and time well spent with those you love. As I mentioned, you know, life is very interesting, and sometimes it takes something traumatic to get you to realize how important things are and how truly precious life is. So my thoughts and my feelings are always in many places at this time of the year when I reflect on what's going on in my life, at work, in the world, and so many other things. Things that happen to your friends, people lost. There's a lot. So I'll start. I had a lot of time, and for those who don't know, I had an injury. I tore my Achilles. I know, you know, it's very painful, rough, but it gives you a lot of time to lay up and relax, which is something that I'm not good at doing, but I was forced to do. But it got me to watch the TV, and here's just some of the things you see. Mass shootings. I didn't enjoy that. It was all over the TV. New one, bulletproof knapsacks. Didn't quite see that one coming. After all these years of doing what we do, that's in the news. Robert took one of mine, school districts being extorted by ransomware, having to pay by Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Didn't see that one coming. That's happening. Glaciers melting faster than we thought. And there's so many more. The last one, the Amazon is burning. And we're still trying to go back to the moon. So, unfortunately, I can go on, but because I had some extra time, these are some of the things that you contemplate, but I don't want to get focused on that. What it forced me to do was to say, thank you, Lord. And I said, thank you. Because some of you don't realize how important healthcare is until it comes time for you to use it or someone you love. So appreciate what's going on here because you are in one of those jobs where you are, I won't say insulated, but you don't deal with a lot of real-world issues that people in other companies and other businesses that are being downsized, everything else. So you should be appreciative every day and try not to sweat the small things. Another one, you might know this one, let go and let, yeah. And that one, for those moments I truly had no control of. And I'll leave that one there. And this always a great one. Let's see if you remember this. God grant me the serenity. Some of you know it. That's the serenity prayer. All right? God grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. How profound. As I lay there recovering, I said, not too much I can do. I just got to take it as it comes. And things usually work out. Me walking across the stage and doing all of this, don't take it for granted. It's good to be back. I love what I do. It's been a long time, and I won't dwell on it. But through all of that, I made it to graduation. That night, on crutches, in a boot, in pain, and it wasn't because I was trying to be Iron Man. I want to see those kids graduate. It was the largest graduating class in the history of Westbury that will change to walk across that stage. So you can applaud, because that's all of us. So when I say that, we are weaving in and out of each other with the thoughts, the things that we're saying. Yeah, I'm a little emotional. That's for other reasons that I don't want to expand on, but let's keep going. So let's remember when we had no space for the students, no word about the 9th grade academy at Nassau Community College, unsettled contracts, looming budgetary cuts to personnel and programs, the budget, the bond. I don't know about you, but the challenges we face at the moment are quite different, yet somewhat familiar. But always remember, we as a district share the successes and also the areas we need to improve in. And notice, I did not say failures. There's always room to improve, and we can't do that without each other. Now, all has come to pass, and it's amazing. It's on to the 6th grade at Nassau Community College. Construction almost complete at the high school, yet about to begin at the middle school. Contracts are around the corner. Yeah, you can clap if you want to. I'm not going to ask for the applause, but if you want to give it, please, it's welcome. New staff members interviewed us as we interviewed them, and now they are part of our ever-changing team. So see what I mean? The more you think it changed, the more it remains the same. So it's always a challenging road to travel in our profession, and it's never easy being president of a bargaining unit these days. Any other presidents agree? Includes you, Robert, yeah? All right. So I would wholeheartedly like to thank the members of the Westbury Association of Administrators and Supervisors, most of all, their trust and friendship, especially our leadership team, and I'm going to have to mention Michael Starvagi, who's my rock that I call whenever, takes care of us, Juanita, Felicia, and Deirdre, for keeping me sitting on the ledge and not jumping. Last year it was away from the ledge. This one is not jumping. So I will always believe we all overcome the trials and tribulations of any school year by the combined efforts of all stakeholders of the Westbury School District. And that means all district staff members. Robert did a good job of listing everybody, and Eldest saved me a lot of work there. The Board of Education, the community, and the students. Once again, the community in these challenging times has put their faith, belief, and trust in us to follow through with their passing of the budget, to educate and care for their children, all of them. That's right, all of them. So, ladies and gentlemen, never, ever forget and try to always remember the simplest things in life are the most profound. Thank you, count your blessings, and be the difference. Enjoy your school year.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. At this time, I'd like to invite to the podium the WTA president, Miss Christine Corbett.
Good morning. Okay, there's an advantage and a disadvantage to being last. I get to hear what they have to say, and then I can modify my speech. But they've said a lot, so I'm going to keep it real. As I came to school today, even prior to coming to school today, thinking about today, 32nd year here in Westbury, loved every minute of it. It has been a great joy to work here. It's probably my last convocation. So as I bid you my last, welcome to the school year, What a year to come back to. So, last year we came together and we advocated for the community to pass a bond, and they did. And they started the construction last spring, and clearly it's not done, as Mr. Troiano said. I knew that was going to be a challenge for us, and I knew many of you would have anxiety about that. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this and make it sound like it's going to be easy. It's not. People are working night and day trying to figure out how we're going to make this work, and I believe we will. We always have. One of the things I thought about when I was coming in here, I said, you know what? I've probably done more construction on my house than most, and it's never been on time. How could they get this wrong? But it's an estimate. The contractors give you a time, and you're kind of handcuffed by that. So when it gets done, it gets done. They're claiming that it'll be ready soon, and I'm hopeful it is. But I think of the metaphor of being in the river and trying to get to the other side where it's beautiful. Unicorns and rainbows, right, elementary people? And and the water keeps rising, and it's up to your chest, and you're screaming, like, stop! And it won't stop. So you need to get on each other's shoulders. You need to make that human chain. You need to tread water, float, do whatever you have to do so you don't drown. But when you get to the other side, it's so well worth it. So my only thing I can say to you is that this is going to be a temporary situation. I'm happy to say our elementary schools look great. We have some new renovations done to Park Avenue. Thank you to the efforts of Mr. Budai and the Board of Education. Our other elementary schools look beautiful. The custodians did a fabulous job getting them ready for today. But our middle school and our high school, it's going to take a little while. Our middle school is going to take a little longer than we expected. And, they say 2 years, probably going to be 3 years. Keep it real. And just, you're going to have to it's true, folks. You're just going to have to keep it real. But to get you through it, this year, the WTA is handing out survival kits. In your bag, you will find gum, because you always give that extra. Snickers, because you have to remember your sense of humor and laugh. Rolos, because here's the real theme of the year, you got to roll with it. Smarties, because you are what you eat. And Starburst, because after all, you are the star of the show. Hugs and kisses, some you will give, some you will receive, but please be mindful of the district's sexual harassment policy. Caramels, because we have to stick together. And peanuts, because, if you do this job, you have to be a little nutty. And lifesavers, just throw them out when you need them, because your union will be there for you. Hang in there, folks. It'll be a great year. Have a good day.
Another special moment. As you know, every year we recognize individuals, part of our staff that have been here for, I'm going to say a number of years, 25 or more. And these individuals really, they've dedicated their life. If you think about a lifetime sentence, this is a lifetime of what a person does for children and for the people, for each other. And so when I say your name, please come to the stage so we can recognize you on your 25th anniversary in Westbury and more to come. So the first person is Ms. Flor Alvarez. She's not here, okay. Joan Bruckner de Guar from the Westbury Middle School, Ms. DeGuire. Oh, and she has to walk from the top all the way. So we're going to wait for her to walk so we can all see her. Ms. DeGuire. Our very own, one of our leaders, Westbury Middle School, Ms. Felicia Crawford. Teaching assistant, Ms. Rafaela De Alessandro. Ms. Asunta Desiderio from Drexel Avenue School. Somebody that came back just for this day, Ms. Joanny Gomez from Dryden Street School. Stay on stage. Yes, stay on stage. We'll take a picture. Our very own Ms. Ann Humphrey from the middle school. The person that picks up the phone and makes sure that our transportation is intact, Ms. Dora James. Mr. Jaime Martinez, former school counselor for the high school and now the ALC coordinator. And his partner in crime, Ms. Lisette Martinez, teacher aide at Dryden Street School. Ms. Beverly Reese, not to be confused with Rice, guidance counselor at Powell's Lane. Ms. Elizabeth Peters, teaching assistant at Park Avenue. Our very own in the business office, Ms. Carmela Robledo. One of our other leaders in our district, Mr. Jorge Santiago Jr. At Park Avenue, one of our clerks, Ms. Sadie Sawyer. One of our kindergarten teachers at Dryden, Mr. Andrew Schuster. Ms. Barbara Thomas, a school monitor at Park. Ms. Patricia Torres, ESL at Park Avenue. Ms. Jeanette Williams, social studies teacher at the Westbury High School. And Ms. Katia Wolf, teaching assistant at Drexel Avenue School. If we can get a little closer, now don't be shy. You can get a little closer. I was going to say the rest of it. All of you know the commercial with Arid Extra Dry? Oh, I guess you're not from that time. We can get a little closer in Board of Education. Thank you once again for your 25 years of service and your next 25 years of service. At this moment in time, if our esteemed guests could please take the seat in the front row. You gotta let them know because they're not listening. We're going to head on with our keynote. So if our esteemed could sit in the front row. I'm going to sit in the front row. Okay, 1 second, 1 second. This is not a break. We're going to begin our keynote. I will tell you that usually I try to figure out a way to get a keynote that's going to motivate us, make sure that we are empowered, enlightened, and start with some good spirits on the beginning of our year. And this gentleman came to me through my daughter. I will tell you that when I hear my kids tell me how dynamic a person is, a person that you must have come and speak to your staff and your students, I don't take that lightly. When a student tells you this person can really come and speak to your staff or your students, I say we got to have him. Now, mind you, so my daughter thought he was hot. So she said, Pops, he is hot. And I said, okay, so could he motivate you? He goes, oh, he did that too. So I said, I have to see this young man. I got to see what is it that he brings. And I'll tell you, so one of the things that really inspired me to have him here, number one, he is an educator. That's what he does. Social studies, if I'm not mistaken, teacher. And he went on some different kind of vibe now. And he actually goes and he speaks. He is a motivating speaker for the New York Giants. I don't think we have a lot of Giant fans here. But he does speak to the Giants. In fact, he's going tomorrow. He travels with them, as I've been told. And he's the one that gets them moving. And he's going to speak to them just tomorrow before they play the New England Patriots, is it called? New England Patriots. So if they win, you understand why they start off with this speech by this young man. If we can have the screen come down, please. One second. This is where IT and technical assistance usually helps. So his name is Jean-Paul Gonzalez. Teacher at heart, as I said, understands what you are. He has a calling the same way we have. But he has also now, he's an international motivational speaker, founder and executive director of Hope and Future Foundation and Community Centers. I've seen some of his work, and he really is trying to really unite communities, making sure that we provide resources to individuals and students outside of school so they can have a place to really go and extend their energy through sports and things of that nature, but making sure that they understand that their souls, their minds are connected in some way. So I would like to show you a brief video, and then we're going to have Mr. Jean-Paul Gonzalez come up and share some wisdom with us for the day. Isn't Mr. Raheem extraordinary? Oh, we can do better than that, guys. Come on. I mean, to capture what's happening today is amazing on a canvas. And our students are learning how to do that and express themselves through the arts. And this is just one way of expressing ourselves. And the arts is something that's very important to us. And I want to say that we don't only express ourselves through the microphone, but through our music and expressing ourselves on canvas. And our children have extraordinary teachers that are doing that and teaching them how to do this.
You gotta go back to the night before Christmas Eve. The Giants were 7-7. what's going to give you that extra push.
And that's new since you dedicated yourself to all in.
You know, I don't think I was giving it 100%. I might have been giving it 90%. But now I think, you know, for the last 5 weeks, I've been definitely giving it 100%.
The 49ers in San Francisco, the NFC title game, jackpot. The Giants in overtime have won the NFC championship.
All the way down, you know, to the custodians, to the cooks that we have here within the facility. And when I say all in, I really mean they're all in.
You came up with it. Doesn't that feel great?
It does. But I know it's a lot of tribute to their hard work.
If you win this Super Bowl, what will you do with the chip?
I'll probably flame that shit, you know, in all honesty. And make sure I keep it by me, you know, at all times. I'll probably keep it next to my Super Bowl ring.
You think you'll get a ring?
I wouldn't turn one down.
Please help us welcome Mr. Jean-Paul Gonzalez.
It is a absolutely tremendous privilege and honor to be with so many fellow educators this morning. But just to check one more time, if it's okay, are there any Giants fans out there? Do we have some there? Okay, all right. I wasn't sure. All right. But let's be fair. There is another team in this New York City area. Do we have any Jets fans? Jets? Yeah? Okay. Good luck with that. Sorry, that's mean. Cowboys? Yeah, you got a little bit? Hey, it's okay. One playoff win in the past 10 years. It's not bad. And I hate to ask this one, but we will. Do we have any Patriots? New England Patriots? Yeah? Couple? It's okay. See, the funny thing about this, as you heard, is that as you heard in that piece that ESPN did, and as you heard before, you know that I'm not a professional football player. You know that my regular job is I teach 9th grade world history, freshman world history teacher. So when the Giants called me up to speak to their team, I honestly thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank because in my mind I said, why would you call up a history teacher to speak to your football team? Talk to Eli about Julius Caesar. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but they said, no, Mr. Gonzalez, we understand what you do. Can you speak to our team, yes or no, this Friday night? I live about 5 minutes from MetLife Stadium, so I figured even if this is a prank, I could always turn my car around, no harm done. But when I pulled up to the security guard gate that night and I gave my name, I remember he said, Mr. Gonzalez, we've been waiting for you, parked to the right. I start to get nervous. Walk into the team facility, then into the locker room for the first time. The whole team is there. In fact, one of the first players to stand up and shake my hand was a defensive lineman on the team at the time. His name was Chris Canty. And as you know, Chris Canty is about 6'9", around 320 pounds. And I remember as he stood up and he shook my hand as I entered, I remember his fingers, they went all the way down to here on my wrist. And I remember he looked down at me and half joking but half serious, he simply said, you better tell us something good tonight. No pressure, right? I spoke to the Giants for the next 20 minutes. And if you were waiting outside the locker room door, and as I exited, if you had went up to me and asked me how I thought I did, I would have told you it was a waste of time. I would have said it was a mistake. I would have said maybe one of the only reasons the Giants were paying any attention that night is because the Giants have a team rule that if you're on your cell phone during an official team meeting, you get fined up to $5,000. Pretty sure some of us wish we had that in the classroom. I do at times. But you know, it's interesting because I felt that feeling once before. It was my first day of school. Some of you remember that? Some of you in this room, you're going to experience that next week. And I remember I'd read all the Marzano and Harry Wong books, and I was ready. I was ready, right? And I remember by the middle of second period, to the end of it, as I held the door open so my students could leave, the thoughts crept into my mind. Why did I think I could do this? Why did I think I was going to make a difference? These kids, they care about lunch. They don't care about Abraham Lincoln. But you know, it's funny, because we don't have to watch It's a Wonderful Life during the holiday season to remember that our words and our actions have more power than we realize, don't they? Because they are watching. They are listening. In the hallways, in the classrooms, on the buses to games. Like I said, though, I walked out of that locker room and thought they could care less. But even some of the Giants were listening that night, too. Because they won the next game. And the next game, people started calling me and texting me saying, man, you spoke to the team, that's why they're winning. I said, well, they're professional athletes, they're paid to do that, but I start to get phone calls from Fox News in New York City to be on some of their shows and talk about what all in means. And then radio stations start to call up like Boomer and Carton in the morning to be on their shows. And finally, ESPN, they come down from Connecticut, take that whole piece you saw, and they say, Mr. Gonzalez, if the Giants beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship, we'll play that Super Bowl Sunday in front of the world. Giants beat the 49ers. I get invited to go to the Super Bowl, but as a teacher, I knew if I went to the Super Bowl, I was going to miss teaching my students the following week. So as a good teacher, I'd call them back, and I said, no, thank you. Also, as a teacher, I'd used up all my sick days, so I couldn't take off anyway. You guys get that. You understand what it is. Yeah. Kind of burn them early, if you know what I mean. But you know, it's interesting, because the day after the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I'm walking to school, and there's news vans lined up down the block in front of my high school. I don't really know why they're there, but I keep walking. My principal is waiting on my front steps. He runs down to me, said, Mr. Gonzalez, follow me. We get into the main office. He says, I don't think you have to sign in today. We go right into the conference room, and there's reporters from NBC4 to CBS to ABC. I mean, even CNN Espanol had come up from Mexico. My Spanish is not that great, but we had the Spanish teacher. She translated, so everything was great. It worked out fine. And the next day, I don't walk to school. I run to school, thinking, of course, who might put me on TV. And as I turn the corner Tuesday morning, it's nobody. We all know fame is that quick. I like to remind my students that fame is something we get for ourselves, but greatness we get for the benefit of those around us. That's what we do. Yeah. And as I signed my name in to start teaching world history that morning, I remember the secretary saying, Mr. Gonzalez, wait, you just got a phone call. I received the phone and said, Mr. Gonzalez, we'd like to invite you to be part of our victory parade in the middle of New York City this morning. Do you think you could make it? I get permission from my principal, of course, and as I go into Manhattan, I start to see T-shirts. First couple of shirts, I thought, well, that might be a coincidence. Then I start to see hundreds and then thousands of the same exact shirt. Finally, one of the players hands me a T-shirt, and he said, I think you like the 2 words we want on our Super Bowl championship shirt this year. And the 2 words the Giants put on their shirt, the 2 words were all in. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I said, that's pretty great. And, of course, naturally, I go back to show my students, and first period they think it's awesome. By third period they could care less. I remember I put the shirt on my desk and the phone rang. I picked up the phone and a voice said, are you Mr. Gonzalez? I said, yes. This is the same one that talked to the Giants and won the Super Bowl. I said, yes again. Now at this point in the conversation, the voice started to get very angry, yelling through the phone. I finally interrupted the voice. I said, sir, why are you angry? Who is this? He said, well, Mr. Gonzalez, I'm the football coach for the high school where you work. Man, you really could have told us about all in. Our football team could win some games too. I said, Coach, I had no idea it was going to have that effect. He said, well, Mr. Gonzalez, we do start preseason conditioning in a couple of weeks. It would be great if you come down to this weight room and maybe say a few words. I said, Coach, anything for our students. So 2 weeks later, I walked down to the weight room, and I noticed that every football player in our high school is already wearing a T-shirt, and there's 2 words on it. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And in Union City, we don't have as much room horizontally for a football field. So we did something a little interesting. We decided to build our football field 4 stories up on the roof of our high school. It's pretty cool. Fences all the way around. No one falls off during the game. Sure, you're wondering that. Safety first. But I said, we're done. 2 weeks later, there was another phone call. Mr. Gonzalez, yes, you spoke to the Giants. Yes, Mr. Gonzalez, would you share for our team? I said, sure, just give me your address during the weekend. I could try to drive. They said, actually, Mr. Gonzalez, we need you to take the first plane to Chicago. I said, well, I'm a teacher. They said, no, we know that. That's why we called your superintendent. He's giving you the day off. In that case, I said, sure. And I fly to Chicago, and there's a team waiting in the National Basketball Association. They're known as the Portland Trailblazers. And they said, we're going to wear these shirts before we play the Chicago Bulls tonight. Would you mind speaking to us in our locker room? And, great group of guys. They haven't won a championship recently, so probably shouldn't talk about them anymore. But they're working on it. And a phone call all the way from London, England, and it said, Mr. Gonzalez, we know you worked with an American football team, but here in London, we play real football. I said, I'm assuming you're talking about soccer. I'm not as familiar. They said, that's okay. Just during the summer, if you could come. And I fly to London, and a team in the English Premier League. They're known as the Arsenal Football Club. And okay, some Gunner fans. Excellent. And put all in on the back of their shirts, and, just a privilege. But upon coming back to the United States, I get a phone call from our FBI. It's hard to return a phone call to the FBI, but they said, don't worry, Mr. Gonzalez, you're not in any trouble. We did hear about your story. Would you mind sharing for our federal agents conference? I said, I'll try my best. Now, the thing about the FBI is they didn't give you a great T-shirt or jersey, but as a parting gift, they happened to give me one of these. Once again, not exactly sure, but corporations began to get involved shortly after. First it was PNC Bank, then Cadillac Speak for Our Employees, and even a phone call saying, Mr. Gonzalez, will you please come down to Arkansas? And I'd never been to Arkansas before, but they said, well, it's probably an organization you're familiar with. And when I got down there, I realized who it was. It was a group called Walmart. And I said, all right, I shopped at Walmart, but they said, actually, Mr. Gonzalez, this is not a local Walmart. This is our shareholders meeting. It's a very important day for us here in Bentonville. And I didn't realize how important it was. So I remember I was backstage, and someone tapped me on the shoulder before I went up, and I looked to see who it was, and it was the actor Tom Cruise. So immediately I turned around to shake his hand, and at that point I realized as I stood up that Tom Cruise is only about that tall. But I think you have a couple of inches on him, honestly. I think so. I think you're all right, man. I heard they're making Top Gun 2, so I don't know, if you have some time. But, in my classroom, as I'm sure in your classrooms, our students enjoy playing video games. And, they love these games where they interact in the life of a soldier, complete different missions. As they talk about them, I always remind them it's one thing to play a video game, but it's something else entirely getting to meet those who actually do that in the fullest capacity for our country. And one of the biggest honors for me is exactly that. It's getting to share for our cadets at the West Point Military Academy in upstate New York, or with our Air Force in Colorado. And it's going to bases during the summer and getting to work with this group right here. And one of the bases actually put this on the back of the shirt, yeah. Because who better to represent being all in than our armed forces men and women who give their lives for the liberties and freedoms we enjoy every single day. And, we could give them another round of applause. It's amazing, their sacrifice for our country. It's incredible. But the sad part is, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't get it, do they? You know what it feels like. We know what it feels like. If you're like me, you go to those family barbecues in the summer. And maybe you have that wise aunt who still comes up to you and says, really? Still teaching? Education, yeah. I thought that was like a 5-year plan. 25, oh my God. They explain that I have a cousin who's an investment banker. He makes 5 times my salary and has 5 different houses. I guess they'll never get it, will they? That's okay. That's why we're in this room right now. See, I was in San Diego not long ago, and I remember an individual walked up to me after finishing speaking for his organization. He said, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you, but I think you're wasting your time. I was taken back by the comment. He said, please don't take any offense. See, this all-in thing is a great slogan. You know what a slogan is, right, Mr. Gonzalez? I work in marketing, and he explained that, we come up with slogans all the time, stay in people's minds, generate more profit. But he said, you enjoy being with students. He said, no offense, but there's not a lot of profit there. I said, well, thank you for reminding me, but that's not why we do it, is it? I said, for me, all in is not a slogan, it's a lifestyle. Something we live every single day. He said, man, that's great, but it's on T-shirts, it's on wristbands. Even Adidas was using it at the end of their World Cup commercials a couple of years ago. He said, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you make per year? I said, you know what, sir, I'm going to tell you a short story and then I have to go. So I began to tell him about a young woman who was sitting in a doctor's office. Most of the time we're at the doctor's, we'd prefer not to be there, but as she's sitting there, she's beyond excited. Her name is called, she pretty much runs past the nurse into the examination room, sits up on the table and lays back. She's so excited to be at the doctor's that day because she's pregnant. And she lays back on the table and the images flicker on the screen. Everything seems great. Except the doctor walks out of the room and the nurse follows. The nurse returns with a small card in her hand, hands it to him on the table. She opens up the card, begins to read it, and says, we're sorry to inform you, but you've contracted the measles. Nothing's wrong with getting the measles. You get some small bumps on your body, a fever, a flu, a couple of weeks, it passes. But if you get the measles during this stage, we fear it's going to have very dangerous side effects. Also on the card it said we cannot see certain limbs developing properly. We cannot see a properly developed arm or leg. On the bottom of the card it said it's in our opinion that you consider the possibility of termination. Try again later at another time. The woman is crushed. She went from being absolutely ecstatic to distraught in a matter of moments. The nurse returned to the room and said, Miss, I know this is very challenging, but how would you choose to proceed? The woman sits above the table. She says, thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your advice. I'm going to try to stick with him, whether he survives for 2 more weeks or for 20 years, whether he has one properly developed arm or no arms for that matter. That's my choice. And honestly, I'm so thankful for that woman because, see, that woman is my mom. And I was, You see, that's what all it means to me. In all honesty, as we're involved in education, that's what all it means to us. To be honest, we heard about some of the students we're going to get this year. We may have heard about some of their past. But the fact we're in this room means we don't care. Because we're going to show up. We're going to give our best. No matter their background, ethnicity, whether they have parents at home or not. That's what we choose to do. Even if people say it's not worth it. Even if people say they're not worth it. To us, they are. And I'll say, I'd love to say I was just committed to something my whole life, but I wasn't. See, growing up, my dad, he played football for the Raiders. So, of course, I thought I was going to play football like him, just like my dad. In fact, I had the guy I idolized. You might remember him. His name was Dan Marino. He's a quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, I want to be just like him. Hispanic version, but just like him. And about midway through high school, start of sophomore year, my mother said, no more football in this house. I don't want you getting another injury, getting injuries like your father did. So she wouldn't sign the waiver. So I did the next best thing. I started to play basketball. But at my school, I realized very quickly that when you played basketball and you lost, you don't go to school the next day. You don't want to deal with the ridicule in the hallways, people making fun of you in homeroom. So at very least, I would sit in the bathroom during classes I didn't like attending. But it's amazing, because I had a teacher. Chances are we're in this room right now because we had at least one teacher. Can you remember their face? Hear the words they would use? Some of you are so young, the teacher might still be in this room. His name was Mr. Phillips for me. And yeah, he was a world history teacher. Funny how that works. He cornered me in 5th period world history halfway through my basketball season. He said, Mr. Gonzalez, I need to talk to you after class. I think he's going to address my grades, so I'm a little nervous, but when the last student leaves, he goes up to me and said, Mr. Gonzalez, why are you not in my class when the basketball team loses? I was prepared, so I said, well, Mr. Phillips, I have a special type of illness. Just like you, he was smart. He said, maybe you do. But he said, the great men and women we study thousands of years later in these books, they gave everything they had, win or lose, life or death. I hope you choose to do the same. And it's funny because no one talked to me that way before. See, where I was from, you didn't give your best. You went kind of halfway, maybe 70%, so if it didn't work out, you could always say, I wasn't really trying. An excuse. It was safe. Even if you were really smart in class, you didn't shoot for the 95, you settled for the 80 because, well, you didn't want to seem like a failure if it didn't work out. That day he challenged me. And we know how it is being in education. Sometimes we only get 10 seconds in the week to speak truth in one of our students' lives. And he took it. I didn't turn back after that day with Mr. Phillips. I started giving everything I had in school, in my family life, basketball too. As we know, it's amazing what happens because we give everything. I got pretty good. I went from barely playing to being all-state in 2 years. Even got selected to play on this team to represent the whole state of New Jersey in the high school basketball national championships down in Disney World, and we win. We become national champions with gold medals around our neck. Our coach said he was going to take us someplace very special to eat that night. He took us to Denny's. And it was interesting sitting at Denny's. All my teammates are going to great, prestigious Division I universities, and I'm excited for them. Point guard got a full scholarship to play at Villanova. Shooting guard, his name is JJ, he got to play at Duke, and everyone around the table is going to these great places. Everybody except me. They said I was too small to play my position at that level. Division II colleges said I didn't shoot enough three-point shots. So I went to the only place that allowed me to play college basketball and be a student athlete. It was a place called Montclair State University. And Montclair State's a great school, but we never play on ESPN. We don't give athletic scholarships, and our jerseys weren't made by Nike. As a high school senior, those are my 3 qualifications for a good college, and they didn't have any of them. They get to me at the table, and they ask where I'm going to school, and I tell them. And they laugh. Isn't it funny when we tell people what our passion is for the students that walk into our room? Maybe people don't laugh. We're a little more socially correct at times, but they'll pat you on the back. God bless you. But they don't get it. I don't know why, but I said to myself at that Denny's in Orlando, Florida, as my teammates were laughing at me, just because I'm going to Division III school doesn't mean I can't practice like a Division I school. So I decided to give everything I had. Get up every day at 4:30 a.m., would shoot 500 shots before class started. Put 2 chairs together in the library, would take naps there in between classes because I didn't have a dorm on campus. Still saving up for my first car, 93 Pontiac Grand Am. So I take the bus home to Patterson. But as we know, the impact we make is amazing. Even if those that we live next to or live with don't get it. Because by senior year, I'm blessed to be a first-team All-American, averaging 30 points a game. I get a phone call I don't expect in the athletic director's office. I pick up the phone and a voice said, "Mr. Gonzalez, we've noticed your talent even though you play at a lower level. We'd like to invite you to be part of the 2007 NBA draft and workout. Do you accept?" I tried to play it cool, so remember in front of my coach, I simply said, "I'll see if I'm free that night." I was free. Don't get picked as high as Kevin Durant and Greg Oden, the top picks of the draft that year, but finally get selected on a team called the Los Angeles Clippers and fly out to LA so excited to prove what I could do. But when we get in the building for the first time, first day of training camp, outside of the door of one of the rooms it said weight room, so I'm expecting we're gonna lift, but we get in the room, there's no weights, there's no barbells, no benches, no dumbbells. I go up to the trainer, I said, "Sir, how can you see how strong we are if there's no equipment?" He said, "Mr. Gonzalez, we don't need all that. We just need to know if you can lift yourself." I didn't understand what he meant, but I soon learned. They put a clock on the wall, it said 5 minutes, and they asked us to do push-ups for 5 minutes straight, no stopping. You couldn't push yourself up another inch, your arms begin to shake. They'd ask us to go on our sides and hold something called a plank. You can't hold it any longer, you start bending in half. They'd ask you to get up and start to run full court sprints, no jogging allowed. You can't take another step, the pain in your side becomes unbearable. They line you up against the back wall and ask you to hold something, maybe you make your athletes do as well, something called wall sits. 2 players get cut from the team within a half an hour and said, "You're released, have a good life." So one morning as I'm doing push-ups, an amazing idea comes to my mind. As my arms are shaking, the idea was, "John Paul, you're out of shape." See, in high school when things got tough, I hid in the bathroom. But now that I'm professional, I learned that when things get tough, you just look to blame somebody else. It's a lot easier that way, isn't it? First game, I'm not playing well in Las Vegas. I go to the team manager, ask for a new pair of sneakers. They had given me Adidas, and like I said, I was used to wearing Nike, and so I blamed my sneakers as the reason my jump shot wasn't going in. Just blame your equipment. It makes sense. 2 games in, I'm still not playing well. I go to the assistant coach and ask for a lineup change, saying the teammates they paired me with, we just didn't have good enough chemistry. By my 3rd game, I had the audacity to go to my agent and ask how long the coach would be under contract. Wasn't sure if I could play for his philosophy of style. But see, when you're face down doing a push-up every morning, as I'm sure we've all done before, we realize there's only one thing that keeps us face down on that ground. And it has very little to do with the sneakers on our feet, the teammates next to us, or the coach above us. It's our own body weight. It's us. So I think one of the hardest things about what we do every day is we know that sometimes the biggest enemy is our own minds. That's what tries to keep us from being all in. Don't get me wrong. We have plenty of things that make it difficult. But see, in Union City, where I live, where I was born, where I teach, we have 90,000 people that live in 1 square mile. We're the most densely populated city in all the United States, 28th in the world. But in this 1 square mile, we had no place for students to go after school. No YMCA, no Boys and Girls Club. So when 300 kids try out for the basketball team and you can only take 30, 270 kids want to belong to a team. So they join one. They join a gang. I used to be content sitting in the lounge, blaming our local politicians, saying if we had better ones, my students wouldn't get shot at night. But as we know, we choose to be all in. We're done pointing fingers. We're more about asking if we can make a difference. So I went and did something a lot of people said was foolish. I started renting this abandoned building on the edge of our city with some of my teacher's salary. It wasn't anything that special, but we got a couple of couches, donated a little basketball hoop in the corner, put on a coat of paint, had some time on the weekends. We opened it up. I said, we're going to be open every day after school. Any kid who wants to come from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, free of charge. See what happens. Embrace innovation. Try something different, right? The first day we opened, only 5 kids showed up. And the next morning in homeroom, a couple of people popped their head in and said, how'd it go? I said, well, we got 5. They smiled politely, but one of them had the honesty to say, John Paul, in a city this big, what are 5 kids really going to do? I said, I don't know. But if those 5 come back tonight and one of them brings a friend, we have 6. Well, we could start by playing 3-on-3 basketball. I think it's worth it just for 6. That was 30 months ago, excuse me. And I was at our center last night. I teach kickboxing and basketball training. Got to give out some backpacks too. We signed up student 1,837. Now, is it is it going to last for 10 years? I don't know. Our lease is up in 9 months. But you know, tonight, if a kid walks in only for 5 minutes, we sign up student 1,838, 39. Is it worth it? I think so. Because we know someone's life can change a whole lot in just 5 minutes, don't we? See, sometimes we think in order to make a difference, we believe the societal lie that says we have to be a big leader or make a big rule. History says otherwise. I remember being in Florida, and a man came up to me and he told me his story. Actually, he was telling a large group his story. He said he was 9 years old and he walked into his house. And when he walked into his house, he said he saw his mother in the kitchen, kneeling down. He said he let the door go, it slammed, and his mother turned and saw him, and he ran over to his mom, helped his mom up off the ground, said, Mom, what happened? You're bleeding. She said, don't worry about it, son, I'm okay. She said, Mom, you're not okay. You're bleeding. Tell me what happened. He said, Mom. She said, son, I'm okay. This is complicated. He said he wasn't the smartest guy in the world at 9 years old, but when she said complicated, he knew. He said his mother was involved in an abusive relationship, and the boyfriend had been over. And he said that his mother went into the bathroom to try to put on makeup to cover the bruises. He said he walked over with all the courage he could muster, tugged on his mom's shirt, and said, "Mom, I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen to you ever again. I'm going to protect you." She said, "Son, don't worry about it. I told you I'm okay." He said he tugged on his mom's shirt one more time and said, "Mom, I'm going to protect you." She said, "Son, I told you, this is adult stuff." He said he tugged again and said, "Mom, I just need you to do something for me. I need you to buy me a deck of playing cards, please." At this, she stopped what she was doing, looked him in the face, and said, "Son, if you think gambling or doing something illegal to getting it out of our situation, you're wrong. I'll be ashamed. Please don't say that." He said, "Mom, I'm not going to do any of that. I just need a deck of cards." He said, "Honestly, I got to go to work. I really don't have time, son." She walks out the door, goes to work, and he said he went to his bedroom and fell asleep. But later that night, he heard footsteps. You guessed it. It was his mom. She walked in the door holding a deck of cards. She said, "Son, I bought these for you. Please don't make me regret it." Tossed it on the bed. He said he hopped out of bed at almost 4 o'clock in the morning, took the cards out of the deck, bent down on his bedroom floor. He tried to shuffle it the best way he knew how. He took off the top card. He said whatever number was on that card, he began to do that many push-ups because he says, "I got to get stronger. I got to protect my mom." Gets up, shakes it out, skinny little arms. He's only 9 years old. Picks up the next card. Now he said if you got a king or a queen or a jack, it was worth 10. Aces are 11. Rules of 21, if you will. He said he did it till he couldn't push himself up another inch. When he couldn't push himself up another inch, he picked up the cards. Put them away. So the next night, took the cards out again, tried to shuffle them up, do one more card than the night before. He says, "I got to get stronger. I can't stay in the same place." Some nights he said he could do a whole bunch of the cards, some nights not so many. But he said by the end of high school, he could do half a deck without stopping. That's not bad. Into college, the whole deck. He said it was 11 years later that he had the cards in his pocket, but they don't come out. He said 11 years later, the cards stay in his pocket because 11 years later is the night of something called the NFL Draft. And the team in the second round chooses him, Mr. Ray Lewis, to the Baltimore Ravens. When he told me that story down in Florida, you know what's the first thing I did? I bought a deck of cards. I went back to my hotel room, and I remember I started doing push-ups. And have you ever started something in your life that in the beginning sounded like a very good idea? Halfway through, I said, "What am I doing? I can't finish this card. What if this next one is a king or a queen?" So I quit. Next day at the conference, you could ask questions, so I raised my hand. I said, "Mr. Lewis, you told us a great story last night. I actually went and bought a deck of cards, but," I said, "you know, you're quite large. You're a professional NFL player." But before I could even finish the question, I remember he interrupted me. He said, "Don't tell me. You quit, didn't you?" He said, "You quit because you were worried about cards in the deck you hadn't even seen yet. And you forgot to focus on just the one card in front of your face." He was right. So I went back to my room and I tried it. I'd never done over 25 push-ups in a row without stopping at that time in my life before, but when I simply just did each card, and I counted them up when I couldn't push myself up another inch, I did over 50 for the first time. See, we all know it's amazing the impact we're going to have this year. But yeah, are there some things in the deck we could dwell on? There is. Sometimes we just got to focus on the one card or one student we have in front of our face, right here, right now. See, before he left, I got to talk to him in the lobby, and he asked me a question. Maybe you know the answer. Does anyone remember the number Ray Lewis used to wear in his football jersey? Anybody? 52. How many cards in a deck? Said I wore the number 52. Helped him become a 13-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Not a perfect man, but I had a chance to work with his foundation down in Baltimore, and he said they're trying to make a difference, and it always starts one card at a time. See, tomorrow night, when I talk to the Giants, people think I talk about football. I will never talk to the Giants about football. They'll know more about that than I ever would. See, I usually start with one question. That night before the Jets game a couple of years ago, it was just one question. I said, what does it mean to be committed? Some guys said this and some guys said that. So I said, all right, let's use an analogy. Maybe we could all understand. I said, let's say we're playing a huge game of poker and everyone pushes their chips in the middle of the table. What would that signify? Justin Tuck was on the team at the time. He raised his hand in the back and he said, well, that means you're all in. You're ready to win. You're done going halfway. I said, all right, Justin, now what would happen if we pushed our chips in the middle of the table? Everyone begins to show their cards, but then you try to pull your chips back, explain to everyone at the table you were just kidding. Remember, he smiled and he said, well, if you're playing poker at my house, that's a good way to get punched in the face. I said, that's a violent solution, Justin, but you're right. We would never do it in a game of poker. So why do we do it with our lives? Why do we say we're going to be committed when things get a little difficult? Sometimes we start looking for the exit. As you heard, I gave him a chip that night. Wasn't anything special about the chip. It wasn't magic or blessed. I simply said, take this chip and you sign it. Put it someplace you see it. When you see it, just ask yourself a question. Am I giving my best? Some guys took the chip and they said they signed it and they put it in their locker to see before they hit the field to help them play better that year, I guess. Other guys took the chip and said, I'm all in for football, but I haven't been very committed as a husband or a father. I'm going to put this in the middle of my kitchen table and tell my family what it means. One of the guys in the video, Antrell, he sent me a Twitter message 2 weeks later after they won the Super Bowl to show me he got the words all in tattooed across his chest. I said, Antrell, no one said to do that. But he gave me a pretty good reply. He said, John Paul, I did it because if it's just a t-shirt, I can always put it on and take it off whenever it looks good in front of someone else. But he said, when you're really all in, it's what you do when no one's watching that makes the most difference. Isn't that the truth? It's the things we do that nobody watches. At times people think we got out at 3 o'clock, and we didn't. Our free summers, stuff we did that the students will never see. That's going to make all the difference this year, isn't it? See, we know in this room that the greatest thing about being all in, it has nothing to do with us. When I first came back from LA, because I called up my agent, and I told him I no longer want to play professional basketball. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to go back to my city and make a difference. He said, I don't understand. I said, well, the greatest thing that changed my life wasn't watching someone's highlights on SportsCenter or buying their jersey. The greatest thing that changed my life were the people who were in it. My teachers, my coaches, my counselors, my pastors. So I turned down the MBA and came back home, became the greatest thing I thought I could become, a public school teacher. Yeah. But see, one of the things I didn't realize is if you want to be a teacher, you need something called the teacher certificate. I was unaware. So I had to go back to college and get something called the alternate route program. And as I was getting my certificate, I went to the only place that would open up their doors that I could work with kids. I went to jail. I started tutoring in juvenile detention centers across our state to get ready to be a teacher. One of the wardens recognized me. He said, hey, you're that basketball player. I said, well, I used to play it. Now I'm getting ready to be an educator. He said, no, this is a good thing. I want to start a basketball team in this jail. It could kind of be like that movie, The Gridiron Gang, and you look a little bit like The Rock, so maybe this could work out. And I said, that's an exaggeration, but let's try something different. So we start playing basketball in jail, and it starts to work. Eventually, the state of New Jersey decides they want to buy us uniforms because they said it's working. They said, what do you want on your uniforms? These kids are pretty bad. I said, well, I believe they've made some bad choices, but them being born on this earth was not a mistake. So these are the jerseys that are worn in jail. And this is the word on the front. See, people, people call me naive, but I think this is one of the greatest things we have on this earth. It's the ability to hope. There's a movie I enjoy a lot. Maybe you've seen it before. It's called The Shawshank Redemption. There's a quote at the end of the movie. Do you remember it? It says, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and a good thing never dies. I say, John Paul, you're just being nostalgic, you know. What does that even mean? Well, the funny thing is a lot of people don't know what it means. But us in this room, we do. Because we're walking in a supermarket aisle on a Sunday morning, and we hear a name called 4 aisles away. We turn around. We don't remember their name, but they remember ours. They run up to you, and of course you have your phrase ready, so you're like, hey, big man. or miss, all right? Got to be friendly. And they usually start the conversation with, you don't remember me, but. You don't remember me, but in the lunchroom, you knew I had that allergy, so you would put my lunch on the side so I wouldn't have to get called out and be embarrassed. You don't remember me, but your class is one of the only reasons I came to school every day. You don't remember me, but I didn't have any friends in recess, so I like to hang out at your security guard desk. I didn't even like the Yankees, but I acted like it. It's funny how that happens, right? Hope didn't die. See, the greatest thing about giving hope with what we do every single day is our reverse side in the jail when we change colors. Is when we give others hope, they start to believe they can have this. Yeah. It's funny how the two work together. You really can't have one without the other, can you? Need both. We get to be part of both. When you walk out of here, your district decides to do something pretty cool for you. They got everybody in this room chips. And on one side is your logo. And on the other side, it's blank. It's not because they couldn't afford to put the logo on the other side. Now see, it's blank. It's blank for us. This is where we sign. See, I don't know where your chip would go. Some of you might take a chip and it goes right on the corner of your desk. Because some days during fifth period, for me it's fifth period. I'm not sure. We always have a period, right? There's always at least one that's just, you might have to glance at it. When you see it, you remind yourself why you started. For some of you, though, this chip, maybe it doesn't go on your desk. Maybe this chip represents more for you as a father, as a mother for your family, sister, brother, maybe son or daughter for an elderly parent. I don't know what all of them looks like to you this year, but I know the reason you're in this room is because you've chosen to make it a lifestyle, and you've given hope for so many for years. I guess I just want to encourage you, keep going. So that people, when they see you, can say all in is more than a slogan. It's something that lives and breathes in our community every single day. God bless you guys. Thank you for your time.
I got up just before you stopped, but I think we should give Jean-Paul Gonzalez another round of applause. An educator, a person that understands what happens in the classroom. Thank you for being with us today. And we know that that fifth period is going to be a special period in your school district. And so the question is, are we all in? I can't hear that. Are we all in? So I am very, very fortunate to be a part of this community, this learning community. I know that I will have my chip. I will sign it right when I leave, and I will make sure that I put it here, so I can travel with it everywhere I go. I will say that the chips, as you walk out, you will get the chips. Those of you that are going to stay in this room, please make sure that you receive your chips before you leave. And so it's not just about the people that are just in classrooms, because when we're all in, that includes every single one of us. That includes our nutritionists, that includes our nurses, that includes everyone, our security, everyone is a part of this community. And I will tell you that I am very proud of the people that we serve, because every day they come in all in. But they have to be received all in as well. With that, I do not see Mr. Zimbler. He's supposed to close off, but I will tell you. So there he is. It's all you. We're all in with Mr. Zimbler as well. Give him a round of applause, because Mr. Zimbler. And so just to let you know, we're going to invite Mr. Jean-Paul Gonzalez to come and speak to our students as well. And we hope that our entire football team has a t-shirt that says all in as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, whoa, sorry about that. As we conclude, just some housekeeping items, but prior to that, make it your best year yet. You heard the message. We can chant all in, but we know the expression. If we're going to talk the talk, we better. Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make it the best year yet. A round of applause for all of us, Westbury School District, and our children. WTA, please remain in the auditorium. TAs, aides, and monitors, please travel to the high school library, which is that way. And upon the conclusion of lunch, please go back to your buildings. The high school staff will meet in the auditorium upon the conclusion of lunch. Guys, make it a great year. Thank you for all you do. And what is this going to be? What are we? What are we? What are we?
It was awesome.
Yep. Thank you. You too. I'll talk to you. Listen, Dave, expect to see me a lot.
Oh, what's up? What's going on?
Well, because people are, I'll tell you later. I'll call you later. We'll talk. They just want to make sure that everything is, they're worried. They're worried about this building. My hands are, my phone has to stop ringing.
I can only imagine how
I know, and I feel for you, but I know. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Vellante. Mike Vellante is coming up. Mr. Vellante, can you please come to the podium? He's mad at me. What time is it now? Yeah, by 12 then they go to lunch. 1 o'clock. Everybody knows 1 o'clock. You got it. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you see the difference?
I look a little fatter with the jacket on,
That's a
but
great
15
thing.
pounds is 15 pounds.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, last night I had a bacon eating. It was my birthday. It's my birthday.
You gave my new girlfriend license to like